joining me today is day 318 of reading. Today reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Let's get started. Let's go. Lock in. We're on page 606. Let's go. I just said that like 10 times. Hermione had not spoken for 10 minutes. She was sitting with her forehead in her hands, staring at her knees. Harry thought she too looked as though she could have done with a pensieve. Rita Skeeter, she muttered finally. How can you be worrying about her now? Said Ron in utter disbelief. I'm not worrying about her, Hermione said to her niece. I'm just thinking. Remember what she said to me in the Three Broomsticks? I know things about Ludo Bagman that would make your hair curl. This is what she meant, isn't it? She reported his trial. She knew he'd pass information to the Death Eaters and Wiki too. Remember, Ludo Bagman's a bad wizard. Mr. Crouch would have been furious he got off. He would have talked about it at home. Yeah, but Bagman didn't pass information on purpose, did he? Hermione shrugs. And Bud reckons Madame Maxime attacked Crouch, Ron said, turning back to Harry. Yeah, said Harry, but he's only saying that because Crouch disappeared near the Bucksbaden's carriage. We never thought of her, did we? Said Ron slowly. Mind you, she's definitely got giant blood. She doesn't want to admit it. Of course she doesn't, said Hermione sharply, looking up. Look what happened to Hagrid when Rita found out about his mother. Look at Fudge, jumping to conclusions about her, just because she's part giant. Who needs that sort of prejudice? I'd probably say I have big bones if I knew that's what I'd get for telling the truth. Hermione looked at her watch. We haven't done any practice, she said, looking shocked. We were going to do the impediment curse. We have to really get down to it tomorrow. Come on, Harry, you need some sleep. Harry and Ron went slowly upstairs to the dormitory. As Harry pulled on his pajamas, he looked over at Neville's bed. True to his word about Dumbledore, he had not told Ron and Hermione about Neville's parents. As Harry took off his glasses and climbed into his four-poster, he imagined how it must feel to have parents still living but unable to recognize you. He often got sympathy for strangers for being orphaned, but as he listened to Neville's snore, he thought that Neville deserved it more than he did. Lying in the darkness, Harry felt a rush of anger and hate toward the people who had tortured Mr. and Mrs. Longbottom. He remembered the jeers of the crowd as Crouch's son and his companion had been dragged from the court by the Dementors. He understood how they had felt. Then he remembered the milk-white face of the screaming boy and realized that he had died, and realized with a jolt that he had died a year later. It was Voldemort, Harry thought, staring up at the canopy of his bed in the darkness. It all came back to Voldemort. He was the one who had torn these families apart, who had ruined all these lives. Ron and Hermione were supposed to be studying for their exams, which would finish on the day of the third task, but they were putting most of their efforts into helping Harry prepare. Don't worry about it, Hermione said shortly when Harry pointed this out to them and said he didn't mind practicing on his own for a while. At least we'll get top marks in defense against the dark arts. We'd never have found out about all those hexes in class. Good training for when we're all ours, said Ron excitedly, attempting the impediment curse on a wasp that had buzzed into the room and making it stop dead in the midair. The mood in the castle as they entered June became excited and tense again. Everyone was looking forward to the third task, which would take place a week before the end of the term. Harry was practicing hexes at every available moment. He felt more confident about this task than either of the others. Difficult and dangerous though it would undoubtedly be, but he was right. Harry had managed to find his way past monstrous creatures and enchanted barriers. But for now, and this time he had some notice, some chance to prepare himself for what lay ahead. Tired and walking in on Harry, Ron, and Hermione all over the school, Professor McGonagall had given them permission to use the empty Transfiguration classroom at lunchtimes. Harry had soon mastered the impediment curse, a spell to slow down and obstruct attackers, the reductor curse, which would enable him to blast solid objects out of his way, and the 4-point spell, a useful discovery of Hermione's that would make his wand point due north, therefore enabling to check if he was going in the right direction within the maze. He was still having trouble with the shield charm, though. This was supposed to cast a temporary invisible wall around himself that deflected minor curses. Hermione's managed to shatter it with the Willblaze Jellylegs jinx, and Harry wallowed around the room for 10 minutes afterward before she had looked up the counter jinx. "You're still doing really well, though," Hermione said encouragingly, looking down at her list and crossing off the spells that they had already learned. "Some of these are bound to come in handy." Come and look at this," said Ron, who was standing by the window. He was staring down at the ground. "What's Malfoy doing?" Harry and Hermione went to see. Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle were standing in the shadow of a tree below. Crabbe and Goyle seemed to be a lookout. Both were smirking. Malfoy was hand up to his mouth and speaking into it. "It looks like he's using a walkie-talkie," said Harry curiously. "He can't be," said Hermione. "I told you, those sorts of things don't work around Hogwarts." "Come on," Harry shouted briskly, turning away from the window and moving back into the middle of the room. Let's try that shield charm again." Cyril was sending daily owls now. Like Hermione, he seemed to want to concentrate on getting Harry through the last task before they concerned themselves with anything else. He reminded Harry in every letter that whatever might be going on outside the walls of Hogwarts was not Harry's responsibility, nor was it within his power to influence it. "If Voldemort is really getting stronger again," he wrote, "my priority is to ensure your safety. He cannot hope to lay hands on you while you are under Dumbledore's protection, but all the same, take no risks. Concentrate on getting through that maze safely, and then we can turn our attention to other matters." Harry's nerves mounted as June the 24th drew closer, but they were not as bad as those he had felt before the first and second task. For one thing, he was confident that this time he had done everything in his power to prepare for the task. For another, this was the final hurdle. And however well or badly he did, the tournament would at last be over, which would be an enormous relief. Breakfast was a very noisy affair at the Gryffindor table on the morning of the third task. The post always appeared, bringing Harry a good luck card from Cyrus. It was only a piece of parchment folded over and bearing a muddy paw print on its front, but Harry appreciated it all the same. A Screech Owl arrived for Hermione carrying her morning copy of the Daily Prophet as usual. She unfolded the paper, glanced at the front page, and spat out a mouthful of pumpkin juice all over it. "What?" said Harry and Ron together, staring at her. "Nothing," said Hermione quickly, trying to shove the paper out of sight, but Ron grabbed that. He stared at the headline and said, "No way, not today. That old cow." "What?" said Harry. "Rita Skeeter again?" "No," said Ron. And just like Hermione, he attempted to push the paper out of sight. "It's about me, isn't it?" said Harry. "No," said Ron, in an entirely unconvincing tone. But before Harry could demand to see the paper, Draco shouted across the great hall from the Slytherin table. "Hey, Potter! Potter! How's your head? You feeling all right? Sure you're not going to go berserk on us?" Malfoy was holding a copy of the Daily Prophet too. Slytherins, thank you everyone. That's all for today. Bye. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to read page 611. Bookmark, close. Peace out.